Hello, everyone, and welcome to the short form makeup station of the Golden Silent Films podcast, where we are about to talk about the origins of a legendary lash product. If you are unaware, YouTube is the new home of exclusive short form content, any and all show updates, and other newsworthy reports. So to stay up to date, follow us on Instagram, Bluesky, or Twitter or X. Oh, and while you're here on YouTube, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. It means a lot to our growing channel and helps us expand, helps our reach get a little bigger. Now, as a guy with long, luscious eyelashes, I've never really given much thought to the history and lore of the false eyelash industry. Imagine my surprise when I read the false eyelash market is absolutely booming. Worldwide, it accounted for $1.6 billion in 2024 and projects out to rack up a value of $3.13 billion by 2034, according to Yahoo Finance. Those are some big numbers, helped along by the ever-growing beauty consciousness of the modern person and the various social media trends they are exposed to. Now, I know what you're thinking out there. Why is a silent movie channel doing a lash tutorial? Well, it's not so much a tutorial as it is a history lesson, but the night is young and who knows where this episode will take us. The story of the silent movie industry creating false eyelashes has been around for a while, and a full investigative report seemed like the perfect use of our vast podcast resources. But where did this eye enhancement empire start? Some stories would say it began in silent film firmly, a little too firmly, glued to the already gorgeous eyes of actress Seena Owen. Even more surprising is the man behind it all, David Wark Griffith. This episode sets out to prove or disprove this Hollywood notion and give you fine-lashed folks out there the unvarnished truth. The film industry has always been about making the impossible possible. Even behind the scenes, studios and talent never let the truth get in the way of a good story, so it only makes sense that we, the general public, would gravitate to a story of the ubiquitous eye accessory being dreamt up by a pioneer of the film industry. It adds a certain mystique to the movie industry, which was already very powerful in shaping cultural tastes. That original story in question tells us that the birthplace of the modern false eyelash goes back to a movie set in 1916, and not just any movie set either. The 1916 movie in question is Intolerance, directed by D.W. Griffith. Now, while filming scenes from the Babylonian segment, the director was feeling things were a little off. One of the most important aspects for an actor or actress is their eyes, especially in silent film. Griffith looked into the eyes of Seena Owen and wanted something more magical, more fantastical, more supernatural. What happened next is the stuff of legend. And who better than a legend to tell that fateful story? Lillian Gish, in her memoir, The Movies, Mr. Griffith and Me, begins by explaining, Seena Owen, a beautiful girl, played the princess beloved of the king. Unlike the usual Griffith heroine, she was a full-blown young woman, a type that would appeal to the Eastern taste. She, too, wore high heels, but when she was made up and in costume, Mr. Griffith felt that something was lacking. Her body is important and handsome enough, he said, but her eyes... Seena had lovely blue eyes, but he wanted them to look supernatural. How can I make them look twice their size, he wondered. Then, calling the wig maker, he asked if it would be possible to paste lashes around her eyes. Gish continues, Seena explained to me once how the lashes were made. The wig maker wove human hair through a warp of the thinnest gauze in a strip 24 inches long. He cut off 2 tiny pieces from the end and fastened them to her eyelids with spirit gum. Each day, as she needed them, she cut off 2 more small strips. Those were the first false eyelashes. The actress concludes the story by writing, One morning she arrived at the studio with her eyes swollen nearly shut. The studio was in turmoil. What had they done to Seena? Would she be blind? Doctors were summoned and they told us that her eyelids had been irritated by the weight of the false eyelashes. Fortunately, Mr. Griffith had already shot the important scenes with her, and he ordered her not to use the lashes again. In a few days she was back at work and in the great banquet scene. Now, when Griffith said he wanted to extend the lashes of Seena Owen, he wasn't messing around. They were pretty extreme and almost distracting to a certain extent. Owen does a great job in her role, with or without fake lashes. I'm just happy her vision wasn't worsened as a result of this cinematic experiment. A lot of folks throughout time have been harmed in roles because of accidents caused by ill-advised wardrobe or makeup snafus. And a wise man once said, "Fiction can be fun, but I find the reference section much more enlightening." These lash extensions, or lash fringes as they were sometimes called, certainly did a number on Seena's peepers, but unfortunately, she was not patient zero of the falsy phenomenon. They have been applied to eyes for thousands of years and patented for nearly 15 years by the time the actress had her eyes glued shut. While the fake lash wasn't birthed in Hollywood, their popularity was certainly boosted by some of the biggest names in Tinseltown. What moviegoers saw on the silver screen often set the cultural trends of the day, and popularized many a fashion for the masses. The false eyelash wasn't created on a back lot, but instead it was patented in the Great White North of Canada. Pagan Kennedy, in the New York Times Magazine article entitled "Who Made Those False Eyelashes?" we read, "Gish claimed that Griffith invented false eyelashes, but like many Hollywood legends, this one proves to not be exactly true. In 1911, a Canadian woman named Anna Taylor received a U.S. patent for the artificial eyelash. Hers was a crescent of fabric implanted with tiny hairs, and even before that, hairdressers and makeup artists tried a similar trick. Now, Anna Taylor of Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, filed her patent application on February 10, 1911, and the patent was officially granted on June 6, 1911. The patent explains that Taylor had invented certain new and useful improvements in artificial eyelashes. More specifically, the patent paperwork states, "The invention relates to improvements in artificial eyelashes, and the objects of the invention are to improve the personal appearance of the wearer without adding discomfort and, generally, to provide in such articles the natural effect at a minimum cost, and it consists essentially of the novel means used for projecting short lengths of hair outwardly from the eyelid, the particular form and arrangement being described in detail hereinafter and shown in the accompanying drawings that form part with this specification." If you are watching this on YouTube like the super awesome people we know you all are, you should be seeing the patent drawings and explanation that Anna Taylor submitted. It's pretty cool to see this historic moment committed to paper and follow the patent process of this item over 100 years after the fact. Turning back to Pagan Kennedy, we learn about others pushing the eye tech forward. Kennedy writes, "A German named Charles Nestle, née Karl Nessler, manufactured false lashes in the early 20th century and used the profit from sales to finance his next invention, the permanent wave. By 1915, Nestle had opened a New York hair perming salon on East 49th Street with lashes as his sideline. Nestle promoted false eyelashes as a guard against the glare of electric lights and hired chorus girls to bat their eyes at customers. To some men of the era, it was as if a booby trap had been introduced in the war between the sexes. When a fair young thing looks at you mistily through her long curling lashes, do not fall for it until you investigate," warned one columnist in 1921. "The long curling eyelashes may not be hers, except by right of purchase." That's pretty wild to read 100 years on. What's even wilder is that the story of the false eyelash goes way back. Way, way back. In fact, to see how it all began, one must turn their gaze, their luscious eyelash gaze, to ancient Egypt. The history of the enhanced eyelashes dates back to 2500 BC, when Egyptians first used ointments and brushes to achieve a fluttery, fanned-out lash look, we learn from the American Lash Association. Ancient Egyptian queens like Cleopatra used kohl to define their eyes, creating an alluring and seductive gaze. Not only was it an expression of beauty, but it was also believed to protect them from evil spirits. Editorial note, there was no way in heck we were doing a fake eyelash episode and not using a quote from the American Lash Association. To exclude the illustrious ALA would be podcast malpractice. Back to the show, James Hardy, in an article entitled "The Birth of a Trend, Who Invented the Fake Eyelash," moves us a little bit forward in time. Hardy writes, "In ancient Greece and Rome, eyelashes were a symbol of purity and morality. Long, thick eyelashes were highly prized, and women used various substances to give their impression of fuller lashes. Women in ancient Greece often used burnt cork or soot to darken their lashes, while Roman women sought to enhance their eyelashes' length and fullness as a sign of beauty and chastity." Hardy continues, "The Greeks and Romans, with their focus on bodily aesthetics, saw the eye as a crucial element of facial beauty. Philosophers and poets often mention the beauty of long eyelashes in their works, indicating their cultural importance. These enhancements, while less elaborate than the Egyptian kohl, were significant in that they laid the groundwork for cosmetic enhancement being linked directly to notions of beauty and status. Now, fashion ads and trends have always been around. Certain looks rise and fall in popularity, and the faraway past was no different. By the Middle Ages, the long, luscious lash that folks had been dinging all these years had fallen out of favor. The standard of the time and preferred look often led women to plucking their eyelashes and eyebrows to achieve the high, broad forehead that was deemed to be a sign of purity and beauty at the time. These changes were heavily influenced by the religious and cultural trends of the era. Now, the Renaissance saw a return to the ancient Greek and Roman appreciation for beauty, including the allure of a well-defined eye. James Hardy adds, this period saw a renewed interest in natural beauty enhancements. While not explicitly focusing on eyelashes, the Renaissance's broader artistic and cultural movement encouraged a more holistic view of beauty, where every feature, including eyelashes, was considered part of a harmonious whole. So all of that, plus a few hundred years, brings us back to what originally inspired this episode in the first place: fake lashes and Hollywood. So the myth of Griffith inventing the falsie is, in fact, false, but that simple statement underplays the role that the film industry played in catapulting the fake eyelash into modern makeup history. Not only did the industry grow from the stars getting lashed up on screen and in various movie magazines and photo ops, but several big names in the world of makeup owe some of their success and legacy to the humble false eyelash. Tanya Ballard Brown, in an article for NPR, writes, a 2007 Los Angeles Times obituary for Hollywood makeup artist Monty Westmore, who worked with the legendary Joan Crawford, noted that she did her own face, but it was his job to lay out her makeup supplies and curl 6 pairs of her false eyelashes each morning before filming began. Max Factor, a name you probably recognize today, pioneered false eyelashes in the film industry in the teens and 20s, initially creating them to enhance actresses' eyes for the camera, and in a way, that wasn't ruining people's eyes, which is important to mention after all we've been through on this episode. And yes, the Polish-born innovator was a real human being, which I did not know. And by the 1930s, Max Factor was making them from human hair for a more natural look. The makeup impresario refined the design, shifting from stiffer materials to human hair, which was more a natural fit on camera. By the post-World War II era, his brand helped popularize the lash extension as a mainstream fashion item for everyday women, not just screen stars. James Hardy writes, as film stars began to be idolized, their on-screen beauty standards, including the use of fake eyelashes, started to influence public fashion trends. Hollywood glamour became a benchmark for beauty, and what was once a film industry necessity quickly morphed into a fashion statement. Women around the world began to adopt fake eyelashes as a means to emulate the captivating allure of their favorite movie stars, marking the transition of this cosmetic tool from a movie set novelty to a staple in personal beauty kits. That, folks, is the real-life story of the birth and growth of false eyelashes and their impact and connections to the early silent film industry. It was a wild historical adventure, and I can assure you that none of this history lesson was made up. If you want to learn more about the Golden Silent Films podcast, you can find us on Instagram and Bluesky at Golden Silence Cast, and on Twitter X at Golden Silence 1. And while you're here on YouTube, like and subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. Your support means so much to us on this road to 100 subscribers. And as always, don't forget, the silents are golden and the talkies, they're just a fad.